Welcome everybody, this is General SharePoint Development Special Interest Group. This is the bi-weekly sync. It is May 16th, 2019, and this is the bi-weekly call where we're going to talk about everything else except SharePoint Framework. So provisioning, CSOM, modernization, tooling, open source tooling from that side is covered in here, and then related demos. So for example, list view formatting and column formatting and let's say flow and Power App in the context of SharePoint is covered here as well, and then the provisioning, tooling, and solution designs. Now, let's actually get moving on the slides. So today we're going to have a quick look on the latest on PMP CSOM Core. We actually had the latest version coming out, I would say 5 minutes ago from NuGet Gallery. So we're going to talk about that one slightly later today as well, or what's actually the reasoning behind of that. And not a nice discussion, but I think we need to be transparent and visible around also the issues which we're running into in engineering, because this was actually an engineering issue which then escalated to be something else. But anyway, interesting, well, not an interesting discussion, but let's actually have that discussion as well. Latest on PMP PowerShell, latest on modernization tooling. Then Chris Kent is going to do a cool column and view formatting demos, surprise demo, because I don't even know what's actually going to be shown. I know that Chris has been pretty busy with his family right now due to numerous reasons. We don't actually need to explain all of this stuff, but so I didn't get an agenda item from him, but he promised to have a cool and awesome demo available. Now, and then we'll have a really cool demo from Bert Jansen around the modernization, so modernizing your classic publishing portal. So this is an open source tooling which has been GA'd, so it's kind of a tested, verified that it works, and there's an active community building now functionalities on top of it. So Bert is going to walk through that in practice, what's available and how to make things happen. Obviously, from a SharePoint engineering perspective, we are moving more and more to the modern experiences. That is our intention. We know that there are certain gaps here and there still. Some of those gaps will be, how would I put it, announced and addressed next week in SharePoint conference, and more is obviously coming on the pipeline as well. So our intention is to fully give you a modern experience so you can finally move away from the SharePoint 2013 style SharePoint rendering, which is the classic experience. Now, let's actually move on the slides. So Microsoft Teams, just a reminder on this one, because I always get questions on this. We will move to the Microsoft Teams immediately when the Microsoft Teams will support presenters and attendees as a separate topic, and in a way that we're able to promote people who are joining on this calls. That's unfortunately not yet supported, but we'll jump there immediately when that's possible. You might have seen that a lot of the other community calls, developer community calls, have moved to the Microsoft Teams. We didn't want to go there yet, and now we're actually seeing quite a few issues on those calls. So people are accidentally sharing their own screens, attendees, and all of that stuff, and that's not an optimal situation, because that might be a catastrophic PR issue for Microsoft as well. Now, moving on things, quick opportunities for participate in the community. So you're more than welcome to demonstrate and do a live demo or demonstrate a solution or a technical pattern in these calls as well. So SharePoint Framework calls or in this non-SharePoint Framework calls. Contribute on a GitHub, absolutely welcome, and provide feedback. So if nothing else, please let us know if something is broken, something doesn't work. Please let us know so we are able to help you around those things. That's the most important thing ever. Quick reminders again on the URL. So AKMS SP DevDocs, our official dev documentation. We're hitting 1.1 million views over there right now. In a month, SharePoint Dev videos. We have now more than 10,000 subscribers in that YouTube channel, where we have all of the community call recordings and demos and community demos and engineering demos as well. And then SharePoint Dev issues, AKMS SP Dev issues. So if you're running into an API issue, please open an issue in that issue list that is getting replicated inside to our internal systems, and our engineers will get that one on their table sooner or later. We're having small challenges of catching up on all of the incoming issues over there, but we're trying to figure out how to improve that process in the future. We did have a relatively big issue yesterday, actually, on the SharePoint Server APIs, and that has been addressed, and the code fix has been fixed in the server side in SharePoint Online, and that is now gradually getting rolled out. And that was related on content type handling if you're using CSOM, and it was a human error in the developer side of the SharePoint Online, which is super unfortunate. But luckily, we had the SharePoint Dev issue list, so we were able to address. Somebody informed that, and we were able to jump on it. We realized that it's a critical thing, and we were able to stop rolling out the badly behaving code, and then providing input openly and transparent communications from a single location to everybody, so you would be able to follow up on when something is resolved. And that's also a really important thing in the issue list communications. Now, a few kind of news or updates. So provisioning service, so provisioning SharePoint PnP.com. Oh, by the way, Vincent, I'm not giving any names. Thank you for that. I understand that comment. So there's a provisioning SharePoint PnP.com has been updated again earlier this week, and right now it is now supporting then full set of modern pages capabilities. When you're selecting any of the lookbook sites and designs, it will actually look pretty much exactly like the lookbook design. So it will have the header colors, it will have the section background colors, and all of those defined in the same way as within the lookbook design. So really cool stuff. It is getting more closer and closer to GA and getting that one out, well, getting it away from a beta marker. On the other hand, and this is one of those debatable things that in a similar way as certain companies, certain large companies in the world, they keep on having that beta marker in all of their products. It gives us some flexibility on releasing newer versions as well. So we'll see when we're gonna get rid of that beta marker on the top left corner. Now, quick reminder also on our assets. We talked about this one 2 weeks ago as well. People are asking all the time that, can you send me the Parquet the Porcupine sticker? And the answer is no. I did saw what happened with when Omar Shaheen accidentally promised to send a sticker for everybody who sent their address in Twitter, and that actually came to be a pretty catastrophic situation for him. So Omar is my, let's say, my manager's manager who reports to Jeff Deeper. And Omar owns the OneDrive and SharePoint BMT. And what happened on the, whenever we announced the new SharePoint logos, he showed a sticker in Twitter, and then people were asking, well, can you send that to me, an awesome looking sticker? And then he didn't think, but he said, yeah, not a problem. Send me your address and I will actually send you the sticker. So what that ended up being one full afternoon in Omar's time when he was actually by himself personally shipping 350 envelopes which contained individual stickers. And that's not something what we actually want to do. So that's not a scalable process. So it's much more cost efficient and easier for anybody to actually go to the assets and then order a sticker from your local sticker company or from online. That's much better. And even Vincent got a letter from Omar. Yeah. And I really appreciate the fact that what Omar did, that's absolutely brilliant. He promised to do that and he did that, but that's not necessarily the right way of using people's time. So go here, download the assets, create your own stickers. We will bring stickers to SPC and ECS, SharePoint Conference next week, and then the European Collaboration Summit on the week after, but we're not shipping any stickers to anybody. So yes. What's just a quick side note, and sorry for kind of a rambling on this one. On those stickers which got actually from Omar, they are special stickers. They are actually not official Microsoft SharePoint logos. The S in those stickers is a wrong font. So it is actually kind of an interesting that we shipped 350 versions of the non-official stickers. But hey, it is close enough. It is an S, but it's not actually the official S. Anyway, one reminders, there's 2 big conferences coming up, so pretty much the following weeks will be quite hectic for us as well. There will be, obviously, we will be delivering community calls. We'll try to figure out how do we do this and who's going to deliver and where to deliver. Potentially, if we need to cancel either one of the calls, well, SharePoint Framework one won't be canceled next week, but if we need to cancel the one from 2 weeks from now, because that's actually a public holiday also in Finland, that might happen. We'll see if we can figure it out, but we'll definitely communicate that in the social media as needed. Next week, SharePoint Conference in Las Vegas. There will be like 100 engineering and PMs from Microsoft there, and then the European Collaboration Summit week after, where we have plenty of Microsoft people there as well, and plenty of other community members in both of these. Really, really great conferences, both of them. Now, and like I said, there will be stickers and assets and swag available in both of them. Now, on the PMP Season Core, I think, Bert, you'll do the quick intro on this one. Just quickly explaining, we actually didn't update this slide because we did ship 3.9.1905.2 5 minutes before this call actually started, or 10 minutes before the call started. So let me quickly explain what actually happened, and then we can talk about the latest changes since the past 2 weeks. So yesterday, it was identified that we have a breaking change in the server-side code of SharePoint Online, which was related on content type handling, and if your code, if CSOM code or REST code hit a certain reorder method, it actually crashed your process or your execution. And that was a human mistake in the server-side code, which we then actually addressed, which was causing also issues on the PMP PowerShell and the PMP engine and all of that. So we then decided to do a quick fix on the PMP side so that the engine and PowerShell and everything else would still work by shipping a .1 version, which will not hit that API. So we will not actually have the issue. We had numerous entries in the code which was hitting that API for reordering fields and columns inside of the content type. That's what the API is actually doing. So we basically commented out those rows, and then we shipped a 0.1 version of the PMP CSOM library and the PMP PowerShell. Well, we shifted, and then what happened was that as part of the 1905 release of PMP, there was actually a 1 parameter bug. And now when people actually needed to move to the 0.1 version, they upgraded from a previous versions, and now we ran into a second issue. And that was causing problems if you had a complex parameterization in the templates. And that has been now addressed with another fix, like I said earlier today. So 1905.2 is out, which is now fixing that situation. Before 0.2 was out, we were kind of in a nasty situation where you have a code which is working in SharePoint Online, but then due to community code issue, that's not working perfectly. And so really kind of a complex situation. But right now, if you update on the latest version of the CSOM Core, we should be completely resolved. Did it make sense, Bert? You were potentially listening what I was saying.
I was
understandable way of explaining.
Yeah. Just keep your fingers crossed that there won't be a .3. We'll see. Maybe we have to revert the .1 change once the server side is fixed and release the .3. So there might be something else coming before we ship the June release.
True.
We'll see.
What was so good, I just want to pinpoint this one. What was really good, this was a good example that we were able to get customers and partners fixed in SharePoint Online before the server-side code was actually fixed, which is actually pretty cool. So our open source project was able to provide a workaround for the server-side API issue, which is kind of cool thing from that perspective.
Luckily, we have an agile release process.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. What's happened in CSOM Core besides the emergency fixes? I think the main thing here for this release is the complete support for the 2019-03, so the March 2019 schema. Last time we mentioned that we're kind of complete. We missed the Azure AD user provisioning. That has been added as well. There is some updates to the Teams provisioning aspect done as well. So overall, the schema is implemented well, and I think next steps here is possibly fine-tuning it. We might have some bugs or some optimizations to do in for the new pieces that we added, but I think that's the main thing for this release from PnP CSOM Core. Can you move to the next slide?
So let's go to the PMP PowerShell. I can see Erwin on a call. Erwin, are you ready to go unmuted and quickly update on that one?
Yeah. Sure.
And we can talk about Nick's question after the summary and after the PMP PowerShell, because that's absolutely valid.
So all the updates to core obviously trickled nicely down into PowerShell. Actually, there's an item missing here on this list. that wasn't released in .2 even. That was actually the 0.1 version. So the 0.1 version is the one that .2 is actually on the way out too. So that will be a few minutes after. In a few minutes from now, probably this will be released. But we now have the ability to promote a page as a template. So you can create a page, client-side page, but you can also
modern page.
A modern page, yeah, good point. So modern page, you can, when you create one, you can immediately promote it as a template, but you can also take an existing one and promote that one as a template. You now are able to set the header layout and the type of emphasis, like background colors on your header through the set PnP web commandlet. You can the whole navigation structure for the footer. If you have the footer enabled on your site and you want menus in there, links in there, you can do that now through the navigation commandlets. There is one that I've been using already quite a few times. That is the invoke PnP PS REST method, which is very similar. Simpler though in parameters you have, but the idea, but then the invoke REST method that you get out of the box with PowerShell. The whole idea behind this commandlet is that you can very easily execute REST calls towards SharePoint Online without you needing to figure out what the bearer token, the access token, the request digest, and all those header values you don't have to set. The commandlet will take care of that based on who you are and which context you are and which site you're connected to. So it's
finally shipping that. Excellent. Awesome. We're finally getting it out. We've been talking about this for quite a long time. It's insanely useful thing, because that means that you can really easily execute any REST API call without worrying on how do I get my headers and whatever. So
Exactly. It's a very nice one. I've been using it several times already. Enable PnP COM site to convert your root site collection to a communication site. That is depending on the state of your tenant right now. For instance, on my own tenant, I still get a message stating that this is a feature that is not enabled yet on my environment, so I cannot do that. But on some of your tenants out there, this might be already available, and then you can use this one to change your classic root site to communication site.
Which is, by the way, a one-time operation, just to be clear on that. There's no way for canceling that operation. So
No. And this commandlet is just feature equivalent to enable SPO COM site. So it's basically the PnP version of that same commandlet in the SPO management shell. And a couple of other parameters on the convert to client-side page that Bert added. And that's it. And as I said, point 2 comes out today.
Yeah. Now, a few things actually with Irvin, what we're going to talk about. In the SharePoint Dec Weekly, earlier this week, we were chatting about this one with Waldek as well. So just for everybody in this call as well, we are actually looking actively in the model in future, where we will actually combine PMP PowerShell and SharePoint Online PowerShell to reduce the complexity and reduce the confusion. What is this and what is this and why why are they two different things? How it will be most likely looking into is that we, from an engineering side, if I put my engineering hat on, we will be shipping highly polished, fine-tuned APIs, so admin APIs and APIs, and then community as an open source initiative supported by Microsoft will be then shipping PowerShell commandlets on top of those APIs. So we kind of reduce the confusion and reduce, from two different set of PowerShell commandlets to a single set of PowerShell commandlets, which is a open source PowerShell commandlet setup. Now, when is probably the interesting discussion here, and that's related on the discussion and question from Nick, which is around, will there be a .NET Core version available? So we're looking into doing this change then as part of moving into the PowerShell Core, which has a pre-requirement of having CSOM Core available, or CSOM Standard, or CSOM.NET Standard version available. And that's something what we in the engineering, if I put again my engineering hat on, we are actively working on it. I can pinpoint the person. I'm not going to say the person's name who's actually actively working on it. Right now, we're looking into potentially getting it out in weeks. It's not going to be unfortunately announced next week in SPC, but it will be coming out hopefully during summertime. So we're able to then start reorganizing everything what we have into .NET Core, .NET Standard implementation. So still a while, and we do understand that it's been too long to actually make this transition, but it's finally seems to be happening. Good. Vincent, I'm not going to give you those names and locations. So cool. I'm going to actually, let's go forward, and Bert, will you do the quick intros on the modernization tooling? You're going to do a live
sure.
demo on this one as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about it. I think because the demo will be more compelling to look at than me just talking about this right now. But I think the key things are publishing page support when GA. So we now can actually modernize your classic publishing page, living in a classic publishing portal, and it will end up as a nice modern page in a communication site thing. And we'll show that in a demo in a second. Next to that, there is still some pending work around page transformation UI, but that might even slip to June. It's looking at the time frame already half May. Conferences are coming up, so the idea is to update the UI that we have. So we have a UI where you have like a ribbon button where end users can kind of self-service modernize pages. But lately we've been really focusing on the engine and adding publishing page support to the engine to make that engine, that core piece, much better. And I think that's more valuable once the engine is kind of fully baked and stable. We again spend some time on the UI. And one other thing, there is at the top you see this link, AKLMS/SVPnP-page transformation videos. So if you're new to this, you want to understand a bit more about how to do page transformation. There's 6 really short videos, 5 to 10 minute videos. Pick the ones that you need and get started.
A quick note on that one, actually, just to kind of clarify the opportunity here as well. If you're a partner and you're looking into doing this, you can absolutely use the open source tooling which we provide, and then you can contribute and build stuff together. But all of this is MIT licensed, so you're able to reuse any of these assets, any of this code, any of this stuff in any way you want within your own implementation. So questions asked, you're able to take advantage of everything what we do. So there's a massive opportunity for building and doing transformations for existing customers who are still in classic in SharePoint Online, which is no doubt our objective from Microsoft as well. We want people to move to modern, so we don't have to keep on investing too much on the classic experiences, and we keep on obviously investing on those gaps in the modern side. Good. 25,000 pages transformed in March and April. That's actually a really good start, but we're expecting that to go skyrocketing at some point. But let's move to the demos. And quickly, actually, on the Varun's question before we go to the Chris, can you roll back once you convert classic theme to a modern page? There's options on that. So if you use the ribbon installer, it does not actually replace the page.
So by default, actually, we never actually fully replace a page. Either we create a new page with a new name and the old page is still there, or we rename the old page and give the new page the name of the old page. So, but we never will delete or drop the old page. So you always can go back.
Yeah, which is super important because we don't want to delete any content into any of the sites. So it's safer to run these tools in any of the sites. Obviously, we still recommend testing this in non-production environments carefully. Cool. I think that's it. Chris, I can't stand on my chair. I'm so excited on seeing what is the demo all about today.
Let's see if I can share it.
Did I say that I can't stand on my chair, which is actually an interesting way of putting that. It's Finglish.
Standing on the edge of my seat. All right. You guys see anything? You guys see some stuff?
And loading for me. One second. Got it.
All right. Okay, everybody. I'm Chris Kent. Let's talk about another list formatting, cloud format, view format, all that fun stuff tips. Okay. So, once again, you got your classic Warrior Horses site, right? And the Warrior Horses are nothing if not prepared at all times. So they've been working on a new disaster plan. So they've been listing out their disasters and seeing what they can do about them. So we've got a new disasters list here. So we come in here. Let's zoom in a little bit. All right, so they've got their disaster and they got a plan. You can see we've already applied some formatting here. We've got a nice icon using the UI Fabric icons. It's nice text. So we got this going here, and that's okay. But the horses they're a little upset about this icon here, right? The balloons icon. I mean, that's all right. But maybe they could do a little better. Get something a little more disaster-y. Is that a word? Sure. So if we take a look at the format that's currently applied, right, it's pretty straightforward. All it is got a div with 2 children in it. One's a span. And you can see for UI Fabric icons, super easy. Just put the icon name And there it is, case sensitive. That works, and then you put in the text, right? And you can get all those icons over here on this nice site here. I like to use this site, the uifabricicons.azurewebsites.net. I just placed that in there. I find it just a little easier. It's a little more straightforward, right? So if you were looking for something, I'm looking for balloons, right? There they are. That's awesome. You can do that. But what if you want something a little bit different? I mean, there's like, I forget how many, 1,500 icons, something like that. It's insane. It keeps growing. But there isn't really one that expresses the true rage and angst these horses feel at the disasters they've listed here. So what if we want to use something else? Say an icon from Material Design here, or we want to use something like Font Awesome, right? Use one of their free icons here. Can we do that, right? Generally, you can't use them directly, right, unless you're deploying some actual code. But how do we use these inside list formatting? Well, the good news is that list formatting supports SVG formats. So you can insert SVGs directly inside your formats, which gives you a lot of options. Some bad news is that I don't do it. It doesn't support the attribute view box, which is really important for SVGs, and we'll talk about why. But first, let's find one that really expresses our rage here. So if we type in poo, right, look at this, poo storm, perfect, right? So is there any better way to describe a disaster than a poo storm, right? So the nice thing about these sites is it provides this download SVG button here, right? So we grab that. Mind, there are some different licensing and everything else here. Got it? Okay. So hit that button. All right, we got our poo storm down here. Now, in order to use this, right, we actually need to grab out the SVG path outside of that. But first, because we can't do ViewBox, we've got to make sure we scale that properly. So I'm going to use a free tool called Inkscape. It's an open source free tool. You can get it at inkscape.com or something. I don't know. All right, so let's go and get our poo storm. All right, so all we're going to do is we're going to open this up in Inkscape, which opened it up there, which will bring it back down here. So you can see there's our poo storm. It's beautiful. And if we go into our document properties, all right, we're just going to scale this thing down. So let's say we want about 26 pixels, all right? I'll make sure that view box is scaled as well, all that. Okay, so we just do that. I do 26 and 26. There we go. So now we're going to grab our icon, and we're going to resize that too. I'm going to lock the dimensions here. Well, maybe I'm not. Come on. Oh, come on now. Come on. Lost control. Anybody else seeing this? All right, well, good news is I pre-did this, so if we have to... Okay, well, just pretend I scaled that correctly. Once that is scaled correctly, all I was going to do is resize it to this box. You can open this thing up in an editor, say like VS Code. So we'll just close without saving on that one. So if we open up our VS Code, and I happen to have again, I prepped this. So we got our poo storm solid here. You can see it's got all this information about how to draw that poo storm. Can I say poo storm anymore on the call? Making me laugh. The important thing here is this path element. We'll come back to this. This crazy coordinates and all this other stuff. Inkscape has made that so that all works within 26 by 26 pixels. So let's take a look here. All right. So if we go back, we go to our format here. We want to change out a couple things, right? So we don't want this span with the icon anymore. So we'll actually just kill some of this. So we'll just element type instead of span. Let's make that an SVG, right? So then we're going to come up here and zoom back out a little so I can actually read it. All right, we're going to make that an SVG. We're going to get rid of these attributes here because we don't need any icons anymore, right? We're going to say our style. Let's add a couple of styles here. We're going to add width and height just to make sure that we got that exactly what we want. Let's just paste those in. All right, and then I'm going to set a fill color directly to match this theme color because right now there isn't a Microsoft UI Fabric theme color class for the fill property, which is what we need in order to set our icon color. So we'll set that there. And then the thing we need to do then is add our own children to the SVG. So we'll add a little children here. All right. I'm always typing on this call. It's a mistake. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to add just one little child. One little child. Ah! We'll call. Sorry about the screaming. Can't avoid it. All right. So we're going to add that, and what we're going to do is we're going to add an element type of path. So this is really the only time you ever use path. Again, this is a little more advanced. You don't generally do this, but here we go. All right. L-type path. And the key thing here is we want to add an attribute into our attributes object here. And this attribute is the D attribute. So it's just a little D. Little D. Put that in there. And what goes in there is what we saw in that VS code here. Right? So this D right here, we're just going to grab that D. So I'm going to grab everything inside there. Ooh, it's real long. Okay, there we go. Grab that. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to head back to my format. There it is. I'm just going to paste that in there. Boom. You see it's beautiful. All right, but these are all the coordinates that make up the beautiful poo storm. So we're going to preview that. Oh, yeah. Now look at that. We have a font awesome icon right here. Got ourselves a nice poo storm going on. The horses are happy because, again, you know, this expresses their general sadness better than almost anything else could. So let's save that. Okay, so let's take a quick look at what we just did and what else we could do. Because you could take this a lot further. In fact, if you take a look at some of the samples we have available on our SPDev list formatting, which, again, let's grab that and paste that sucker in. Boom, boom. All right, so we've got a couple of samples for you here. So there's the generic SVG icon format, which takes you through, and what it's going to do is going to use conditional here to set some of these font awesome icons to specify gender. So you can take a look at that. So if you take a look at the actual format, you see we're doing the same kind of thing. It gets a little crazy. We're just using expressions inside that D attribute to change which ones we do. Right? There's some pluses and minuses to that, but it does work pretty well. You know, we also can do a little further things with SVG. Right? So SVGs can be used to draw some pretty cool things like our pie chart. So you can create a pie chart using an SVG, right? And based on values elsewhere in your formats, you can determine how those paths get drawn. So again, this is a little more complicated, but if you take a look at that, you know, we're not going to go through all of this, but you can start to see we're doing some cool stuff. We're using our sin operator, or sign operator, I should say. Right? There's awesome stuff in here you can do with SVGs. Again, advanced topic, but if you want to just start by grabbing some font awesome icons or something else there, you can do that. So let's review. All right. Scalable vector graphics. That's what SVG stands for. You just use the element-type SVG with a child of element-type path and specify that D attribute. Remember, there is no view box attribute, which really complicates some things, because generally you'd just be able to grab that SVG and paste it in there. But without the view box right now, you're going to have to scale those coordinates yourself using something like Inkscape. Do be aware that if you start to do these in lots of expressions, you remember that was some crazy stuff with those coordinates. It can get a little crazy. There are not technically any way to do comments in here, but you can create your own attributes called comment if you want. Again, it'll be ignored by the engine. That might help you keep track of what icons these are. And then, again, it's pretty cool. So if you're interested in some more of this stuff, I'm going to go ahead and promote myself a little bit. So next Tuesday, if you're at SPC, come by. We're going to talk about this as the first session. And if you are in Germany, and a week after that, that Tuesday, come join my session for that. I'd love to meet all of you, but again, we'll cover all of this kind of all up from the start. And then here are some samples. So here's the samples to pay attention to. Here is the blog. So if you're interested in a full write-up of how this is done, right, you want to actually see those steps that I had to skip for the Inkscape, you can see all those in there. All right, that's it for me today.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Not too many words which we need to beep out in this one. So it is a family show, but I think there was only maybe one, and I'm not referring to the Storm one. Anyway, so let me actually get back on the slides for Bert, and Bert is going to continue related on the transformation from classic publishing to modern communication sites. But thank you, Chris. Absolutely awesome demo. Really good to see that clarified and recorded in here as well.
All right, I'm taking over the presentation.
Excellent. Take it away.
Should be done. So let's see. Are the slides moving? Do we see those?
Yep, slides are moving.
All right. Good. I'm going to talk about how to take your classic publishing portal and modernize it. We have a story. We have some tools. We don't have like a fully end-to-end automation, automagically tool that does everything for you. But there is an option and there's a way forward. I think that's important to understand. So let's assume that you have a publishing portal in SharePoint Online typical publishing portal has many subsites. Subsites have then, all the sites have pages, publishing pages. You might have list and libraries, you might have customizations. When you want to modernize this publishing portal, this classic publishing portal, you have to do a cross-site modernization. So you might remember seeing other demos where we did like an in-place transformation. In-place transformation works for team sites. For portals, you always go cross-site, meaning you will create a new set of communication sites. You need to think about a new information architecture. Like is an option for you to kind of rethink what you have today. Like, what sites do I want? How do I want to join them via hub? Like, what's connected to which hub? Which hubs do I have? Potentially, which content types do I want to create? Because you will need like modern site page content types. Which fields of metadata do you want, etc. So when you do this exercise, you kind of rethink the information architecture of your publishing environment. Once you have done that, you can move over content. Content and list and libraries is something that you can move either using native SharePoint functionality, because in SharePoint you can just nowadays move documents from one library to another library, and even across site collection, or you can use a third-party tooling to do so. When it comes to pages, you can use Page Transformation Dec, which I will demo in a second, and obviously customizations, if you need them, you have to rewrite them to be modern, like build a modern, maybe modern header or field customizer, whatever that you need, or web parts, etc. Now, what if you're still on-prem? Meaning, we get lots of asks for people that have this publishing portal in on-prem. Today, the option that you have, that we can provide, the only option actually is use tooling to move this portal first to online, kind of put it in read-only over there, and then start modernizing using the cross-site modernization. We actually are looking into potentially optimizing the scenario. So after the conferences are kind of done, we will look at it kind of to what extent can we, for example, read a page already in on-prem and directly create the modern page in a communication site in online. So kind of potentially having an option to directly go from the left side in on-prem to the right side in a communication site in online. Again, we're looking into that, no promises yet, but I think that would be a really cool option to have and valuable for people that have on-prem portals. And if you want to modernize portals, and this kind of a generic rule, whenever you want to modernize or spend time on it, think first before you invest time. Meaning, does it really make sense to modernize this thing? Do we need to modernize all pages? Do we need to modernize all webs, all subsites? Only modernize where it makes sense, where there's business value to do so. We'll have some options to do rename URLs. So if you create your portal using a particular /intranet, which is the old one, you eventually can kind of swap URLs. So you get like the new one can be the /intranet and the other one can be /old internet, for example. So that's an option for you as well to make it a bit easier. We talked about it already a little bit. So information architecture-wise, for example, classic sites, a ton of subsites. Typically, in the modern world, you would have different site collections joined to a hub. That's how you need to think about it, and that's something that you have to do manually. A quick recap on pages, on publishing pages. So probably not everyone in the call has built publishing portals in the past because it's a thing from the past. It's an old thing, but there's still many portals around. So a publishing page is comprised out of a page layout and a master page. And what you see here is the elements of a page layout. So you can define metadata, fields on a page which are not visible when you show the page at runtime, but they are kind of metadata, a way to capture metadata. Obviously, there's content, rich text content. There is a roll-up image. So if you kind of roll up news, roll up pages using content by query, content by search, this image can be used to kind of show a nice graphic. There's also a possibility to have a fixed web part in the page layout. So if people want to have like a particular piece of content appearing in every page based upon a particular page layout, then they put it as a fixed web part inside the page layout. So that's an option. And finally, there can be web part zone of multiple web part zones having one or more web parts. So that's kind of how a page looks like. That combined with the right side with additional metadata. So not all page metadata will be defined in a page layout. So you can also have some metadata just living in the page properties. Fairly complex system that we built in SharePoint 2010 timeframe and then evolved in 2013 and used a lot. Now, how do we kind of translate this story into something modern? And for that, we have a page layout mapping system. So when you modernize publishing pages and you do nothing, let's assume you just run the PowerShell command that I will show in a second, then we'll try to build this page layout mapping for you on the fly. So we look at the page layout, it's being analyzed, we pick up the fields, the web part zones, everything in there that we can, and drop everything in one column, one zone, one column, everything will be there, just top, bottom, ordered. For most page layouts, you want to have like a bit more two column, you want to position elements, you want to tweak it. And for that, you can then update the generated page transformation, the page layout mapping, because it talks about the used content type and layout, page header configuration, metadata mapping, page content mapping, and web part zone positioning and fixed web parts. I will kind of do a bit more deep dive in the demo, so I'm going to go quick on this one. But essentially, this page layout mapping is the tool for you to control and determine how the modern page will look like at the other side. So this is the transformation model between the classic and the modern world. With that being said, let's actually move to some demo. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Still loading.
I got it.
All right.
Well, so that's
cool.
Okay.
So what you see here is such a page layout mapping. You create a page layout mapping per page layout. So typically we would have a number of page layouts in your publishing portals. So one mapping per layout. It allows you to associate a content type. So you can have modern site page content types. You have to create them up front, but once you create them up front in the modern communication site, for example, you can then specify like, okay, every page based upon this composer article left page layout will get the drone page content type. We allow you to control the header. So a modern page has a nice fancy header with images and other settings. You can control that using this mapping. For example, this case here, you see that the toImage function is used on the publishing rollup image. Essentially, we're telling, take the publishing rollup image and use that as the header image. Other examples are using a static image. You might want to kind of put something static in there, or you have other image fields in your page. You can use those as well. Same with authors, so you can take over authors, you can take over the article byline, will be the topic header. So lots of flexibility for you to construct the header like you want it to be. Then we come to the metadata. So remember that a page layout had metadata. Now, when you build a modern page, you have to decide. Some fields become metadata, some fields become content on the page. So it's your decision to pick where goes what. So in this case, we have a field called drone category, and that field will be mapped, will stay metadata and will be mapped to a field called drone types in the modern page content type. You can add multiple fields in here, as many as you want. Essentially, this allows you to map and copy the page metadata from the old page to the new page. Then we have web parts. So web parts is all the visible content which will be on the page visible for the users when they edit the page, when they see the page. So what we do here is we take a particular field. So publishing page image is a field in the original publishing page, and that's being transformed as an image web part, a wiki image part. So we kind of translate the publishing field types into web parts, and then those web parts are rendered using the page transformation tag, the regular transformation tag, essentially as being content on the screen. So this will end up as an image on the page. The publishing page content is the typical HTML blob that will end up as a wiki text, as just HTML. Summary links field will end up as a summary links web part, and that will then be translated to quick links. So overall, these are the options that you can use, and you can choose how to fill the properties of these web parts, where to put them, which row, which column, potentially which order. So lots of things for you to kind of tweak the behavior. When you have web part zones, you have to specify where they live. In which row, which column do you want the web parts living in the web part zone to appear on the modern page? And finally, for fixed web parts, you have to define them as well as in here. And then once they're defined in here, you again give them a particular row, column, and order, and that makes them appear on a modern page. All right, lots of talking. Might sound a little bit complex in the beginning, but I think once you play around with it, you get the hang out of it, and it's really powerful and flexible for you to tweak and tune the transformation. Good. Let's go to PowerShell, and let's connect to a site. Let's copy some content over here. Copy, paste. I'm going to connect to my transformation demo portal, and let's actually see if it's open here. Yes, it is. So this is a very simple publishing portal, having a home page with a content query part, rolling up some news, and there's 2 pages. And actually, I'm going to open up this D88 specifications page just to show you all the options there are. So this is a publishing page, and if I put this one in edit mode, you will see the typical publishing capabilities being present on this page. So we have the metadata, we have the page image, we have rich text, image caption, image links are there, there's a table with formatting in there, there's a roll-up image. This piece of content is fixed content, so this is embedded in the page layout. So every page based upon this page layout does have this piece of content in it. And finally, we have a web part zone, in this case containing 2 web parts. So that's what we have here. Furthermore, if we look at the properties of the page, you will see that there is a custom field. Let me scroll down a little bit. We have here a custom field called drone category, which is a managed metadata field specified to a particular type of drone. In this case, the D88 is our drone. All right, so this is what we have. It maybe doesn't look really fancy as a page, but it does have all the typical publishing features that you can use. So what can we do with this page? Going back to my PowerShell window. Here we are. Let's convert this page. I'm going to copy the command line because it's a quite long one. Alrighty, pasting this one. So to modernize a page, whether it's a wiki page, a web page, or publishing page, you call the convert to PnP client-side page commandlet. You specify which page name, in this case D88. For publishing pages, you have to specify its publishing page. So you have to add this minus publishing page parameter. Since publishing transformation goes cross-site, as we mentioned in the introduction, you have to specify the target site. In this case, it will be a communications site called page transformation demo target. We are using this custom mapping file that I showed before. So if you leave this one out, we'll try to generate a default mapping for you. So you don't have to do that, but it's better to specify your own mappings. And finally, we will generate some logging inside SharePoint. So let's get this one running. It will take a bit of time the first time, especially since we cache a lot of data. We read the fields information, read content type information, we read the available web part list. All of this data is cached for the first time, and then it stays available in your PowerShell session during the duration of your session. And that kind of improves performance for the subsequent calls, but this one takes a bit more time. Now, while this is running, oh, it's done. I'm going to, while this is waiting, I'm going to kick off another one, and then we switch to the output. So I'm going to modernize another page. All right, let's go to the output. Let's refresh this. It does show that we created DATA specs a few seconds ago. Let's have a peek at this page. And let's put the page in edit mode. Where is my button? Here, edit. All right. So what we have a header where the page roll-up image kind of got used as a header. We have the image web part with the caption, with the link in there, formatted text, quick links web part. The fixed content is translated into HTML and images, kind of another summary links. This was data inside the properties of the page. We have our web parts, documents web part over here. So all looks good. Some of the new features that we added with the main release, for example, is link translation. So when you hover over this link, well, it doesn't show. Let me just save it again. And then let's hover over the link. It does, at the very bottom, it's probably small to read, but essentially we do translate links. So if there's links inside the content, inside the text content, inside certain web parts, we rewrite the URLs so that they work for the target site collection. So in this case, I can click on D95 and I navigate over to the other page. Hope this shows the possibilities. The call to action is for you is kind of try it out, play around with these mappings, provide feedback. We already added several features between the April and the May release based on community feedback, but this tool is quite new, so I guess there's still an option to further improve it and have more capabilities and more features. So let us know what you want and create an issue in our issue list, and then we'll further make it better. And we hope you all start to move away from those classic publishing portals and create shiny new communication sites. All right, I think first I'm going to move back to the slides.
Oh, I was faster than you, so I already moving.
That's good. Yeah. Good.
Okay, thank you, Bert, for that one. And like I said, like Bert kind of noted on there as well, and this will be visible next week more and more on the SPC and more in our messaging. We really want people to move away from classic publishing because we're not really investing on the classic publishing anymore. We are investing more and more on the modern. Next week in SPC, you can expect some announcements and additional capabilities to be announced around the modern publishing and the communication sites. But also, if you have challenges and if you have identified gaps which are there, please do let us know. Please use the user voice for your submissions as well. Super important. There was a good discussion already on when is the capability of locking down the page content is coming for the communication sites, and I'm not sure that's actually even in the roadmap. I'm not sure if there's a user voice entry for it. It's super important to get those entries.
Yeah, I don't think that's being worked on right now.
Yeah. And obviously there are ways of handling the permissions and all of that, but please do let us know if there are, let's say, gaps which we need to still work on, guidance which needs to be provided. We do understand, and absolutely, I personally deployed multiple .com sites using the classic publishing, and yes, we know that there are certain gaps already still there, which hopefully most of them will be addressed next week after the SPC announcement. Now, will SP 2010 publishing pages be supported? Answer is no for the transformation tooling, right, Bert? Because the tooling is using
currently not
APIs.
Yeah, so currently the source has to live in SharePoint Online, but we are potentially adding some support to connect to something in on-prem and directly move content to online. But that's a big if for now. Meaning, if there is an interest and need for that, meaning, please let us know. There's an issue in the issue list. I pasted the link in the chat. The SP-dev-modernization repository in the SharePoint GitHub organization. There's an issue open to kind of design and think about what does it mean to go from on-prem directly to online. If you have thoughts, good ideas, requirements, please chime in there and add your feedback.
But I say I'm just brainstorming here for 10 seconds before we're running out of time. But I say if we quickly think about this one, SharePoint, we could run server-side APIs in on-premises if customers would be willing to install a farm solution to their farm, helping on transforming to the cloud. And that would mean that the code would be actually pretty identical between SharePoint 2010 and SharePoint 2013, because the server-side API surface hasn't really changed for the core parts between 2010 and 2013. There are certain elements absolutely front.
2010, yes, but yeah, if we do this, let's say that we probably will start with 2013. To be honest,
2016, yeah, and 2016,
2013, 2016, client-side support.
Yeah, exactly.
So there was one other question about web parts, so custom web parts. So if your page today contains a custom web part, the SharePoint Online, that custom web part is either a classic add-in or SharePoint framework-based custom web part. And if so, both are taken over to the modern page with the same configuration. So in SharePoint Online, you can't have any other types of custom web parts anymore. Like we kind of deprecate the sandbox web parts, they're gone. So I hope that explains that question then. So yes, they're taken over. There was a question from Nishi, I think, yeah.
There's a quick question related on PDF converter. Just quickly, there's a first from Rick and then the PDF converter. Do we have an option to add site classification to STS has 3 site templates? Yes, there is an SB site classification where it would be actually stored, and I think the UI will reflect that property. Now, on group associated sites, you can't really use that property to modify the classification because it will get overridden whenever the Azure AD group attributes will be synced again to SharePoint. But I think in SharePoint, STS has 3 that is available, unless I'm completely mistaken. Well, the property is there definitely, but is the UI reflecting that setting or not? And then on the PDF question, I think the PDF transformation through Microsoft Graph absolutely works in OneDrive and SharePoint, because the Graph APIs for files is exactly the same between SharePoint and OneDrive. So that should definitely work. Now, is there a specific flow action? And if there's a specific flow action for OneDrive PDF converter, I have no idea. Is it in the roadmap of Microsoft Flow people to provide that for SharePoint? That actually is outside of our engineering.
Right. Jesse asks, anything to support content by search web part? So when you have content by search web part on pages or content by query, that will be translated into the highlighted content modern web part. Now, highlighted content is today quite limited. So not all features that you have in content by search, content by query are kind of available. But do know that we are improving highlighted content web part to get more feature rich. So eventually we will get there. Alternatively, you could do a custom mapping to a community search web part. So there's some really great community search based web parts that could be used as well.
Absolutely. Frank Cornu and Mikael Svensson and a few others have been building this really awesome search web porn. But I think that's it. We're 1 minute over the hour. So thank you, Bert. Thank you, Chris, on the great demos. We were on the limit of are we crossing the limit? This is a family show. We should not use offending language, and we didn't. So that's fine. We're on the limit with that. But thank you everybody for that. The recording will be available within 24 hours in the SharePoint Dev YouTube channel, and then individual demos will be released later next week. But on the end-to-end recording, you can absolutely find everything what we went through today. And please give us feedback, give us input around what's needed for transformation, and also the gaps related on communication sides. And like I said, next week, Jeff Deeper is going to have a keynote on Tuesday morning, I think 9 a.m. or 8:30 p.m. Pacific time, where we will then talk about the latest and greatest and the new announcements for SharePoint. So catch on that one. It's going to be streamed live on the internet as well. But thank you everybody for joining, and let's definitely stay in touch. Bye-bye.